He wasn't supposed to succeed. James Dyson was just a boy from Norfolk who lost his father at 9 and grew up with little more than grit and curiosity. He had no connections and no fancy investor backing, just a garage, a relentless mind, and 5,126 failed prototypes. Today, he's one of the richest men in the UK. He quietly sits atop a global tech empire that redefined how we clean our homes, dry our hands, and even style our hair. But how did a grieving, penniless child turn vacuum cleaners into billions? This is the untold story of the man behind Dyson. The background of James Dyson. Today, James Dyson is more than an inventor. He's an icon of modern engineering. With a personal fortune estimated at over £23 billion, he ranks among the richest people in the UK. His name isn't just printed on vacuum cleaners anymore. It's stamped onto a range of sleek, high-performance machines, from bladeless fans to hair straighteners, and even air-purifying headphones. But what truly sets Dyson apart isn't just wealth, it's how he got there. Unlike Silicon Valley's hoodie-clad disruptors who built apps in dorm rooms, Dyson built hardware, physical products, things people touch, use, rely on. And he did it in a space long ignored by innovation: household appliances. While others chased screens and software, Dyson saw opportunity in overlooked problems, like the way a vacuum loses suction. That insight became his revolution. In 1993, after over a decade of trial and error, Dyson launched the first bagless vacuum cleaner using cyclone technology. And it didn't just clean floors better. It challenged an entire industry built on disposable vacuum bags. His approach was direct. He wanted to make things that work better, last longer, and look nothing like what came before. It wasn't just invention, it was reinvention. Dyson's company is still privately owned and now employs thousands of engineers and scientists worldwide. And while his tech empire is global, James Dyson remains fiercely committed to design-led engineering. He often says, "People think of engineering as boring. It's anything but. It's creativity with purpose." In a world obsessed with software, Dyson proved that hardware still matters, especially when you reimagine it from the inside out. Early life and formative years. James Dyson was born in 1947 in the quiet seaside town of Cromer, Norfolk. At first glance, his upbringing seemed unremarkable, but at just 9 years old, everything changed. His father, Alec Dyson, a classics teacher, died of cancer. It was a loss that would leave a lasting mark, not just emotionally, but financially. The family was left with very little. Dyson's mother, Mary, had to raise her 3 children alone, relying on resilience and resourcefulness to get by. That sense of making do, of figuring things out with limited means, became a quiet force in James's life. He wasn't the top student. He didn't show early genius. In fact, he considered himself quite average, except for one thing: persistence. "I was good at thinking about how to do something better," he would later say. And even as a child, that curiosity would surface in unexpected ways. At Gresham's school in Holt, Norfolk, he showed more promise on the running track than in the lab. He won races not because of strength, but stamina. "I just kept going," he once remarked. That mindset, grit over glamour, would later define his journey as an inventor. After school, he took an unconventional route for an engineer. He first enrolled at the Byam Shaw School of Art, with an eye on painting. But again, something didn't quite fit. He wasn't drawn to expression, he was drawn to function. That led him to the Royal College of Art in London, where he studied furniture and interior design, and eventually shifted into industrial design. It was here that he found his calling, solving practical problems through engineering. Dyson was, by his own admission, an unlikely engineer. He didn't care much for theory or equations. What fascinated him was the challenge of making things better. There's a well-known story from his early 20s, long before he became famous. Frustrated with a wheelbarrow that kept tipping over in his garden, he didn't complain. He redesigned it. Out came the ball barrow, an offbeat but brilliantly stable design with a big orange ball instead of a wheel. It was one of his first inventions and a sign of things to come. His mother, Mary, played a quiet but powerful role. She supported his eccentric interests and never pushed him toward conventional careers. In their modest home, Dyson would often take apart household items just to understand how they worked. Once, he dismantled a vacuum cleaner and spent hours studying its insides. He was convinced there had to be a better way. It was less about breaking things and more about uncovering flaws in the everyday. That blend of freedom, adversity, and quiet encouragement shaped James Dyson into something rare: a designer who could think like an engineer, and an engineer who never stopped thinking like a designer. He didn't dream of billions, he dreamed of better, and that made all the difference. The early days of Dyson. The story of Dyson the company begins, fittingly, with a mess. In the late 1970s, James Dyson was vacuuming his home when he noticed something frustrating. His Hoover vacuum had started to lose suction. It wasn't broken, just inefficient. He emptied the bag, replaced it, and tried again. No difference. The problem, he realized, wasn't user error. It was design. Vacuum bags clogged with dust, which blocked airflow. Less air meant less suction. It was an accepted flaw in vacuum design, but not for Dyson. Around the same time, he visited a local sawmill and observed a giant cyclone system that used centrifugal force to separate sawdust from air. That moment sparked an idea. What if the same principle could be applied to a household vacuum cleaner? A bagless, cyclonic vacuum that never lost suction. That idea turned into an obsession. Dyson retreated to his workshop and began building prototypes. One led to another, then another, and another. The number would eventually climb to a staggering 5,127 prototypes over 5 years. Each version had small improvements, minor tweaks in angle, airflow, and filter placement. He wasn't just trying to build a vacuum, he was perfecting an entirely new kind of technology. But inventing was only half the battle. When Dyson tried to license his design to major vacuum manufacturers, he hit a wall. No one wanted it. The companies were making a fortune selling vacuum bags, and a machine that didn't need them was, frankly, a threat. He was told, flat out, that the idea wouldn't sell. So, Dyson did what few inventors dare. He took the risk himself. He mortgaged his home and poured his life savings into launching his own company. Friends thought he was mad. Even his wife Deirdre, while supportive, admitted to being nervous. They had children to raise, and now their house was on the line for a vacuum cleaner with no buyers. In 1993, after years of rejection and sacrifice, Dyson finally launched the DC-01. It was his first dual-cyclone, bagless vacuum cleaner. It wasn't flashy, but it worked. In fact, it worked better than anything else on the market. Retailers were skeptical at first, but British consumers weren't. Word of mouth spread. People noticed the suction didn't fade, the dustbin was easy to empty, and the machine looked futuristic compared to the clunky models of the time. The DC-01 soon became the best-selling vacuum cleaner in the UK. Dyson had gone from garage tinkerer to market disruptor, and he had done it not by following trends, but by solving a problem others ignored. His early years weren't just about invention. They were about belief. Belief that a better idea could beat the system. Belief that design and engineering could go hand in hand. And belief that failure, 5,127 times over, was just part of the process. That belief would go on to reshape an entire industry. Growth of the company. After the DC-01 became a household name in the UK, James Dyson turned his gaze outward. But it wasn't Britain that first opened its doors to his technology. It was Japan. In the late 1980s, well before the DC-01 officially launched in the UK, Dyson struck a licensing deal with Japanese company Apex. The result was the G-Force Vacuum, a high-end bagless machine with a futuristic design. It sold for over $2,000 and became a status symbol in Tokyo's elite circles. Dyson had cracked one of the toughest, most design-conscious markets in the world. That success gave him the confidence to go global, but he wanted full control. By 1993, Dyson had established his own company and no longer licensed his designs. He built his first manufacturing plant in Malmesbury, Wiltshire, and began planning for something bigger. Soon, Dyson vacuums hit the US market and exploded. Americans were fed up with underperforming machines. They embraced the bold, colorful, transparent bin design. It didn't just clean better, it looked like it did. By the early 2000s, Dyson had carved out a massive share of the US vacuum cleaner market. He was beating legacy giants on their home turf. But Dyson never wanted to be just the vacuum guy. His company was built on design-led engineering, a philosophy that placed innovation above profit margins and usefulness above flash. He hired teams of engineers to explore overlooked problems in everyday products and solve them from the ground up. First came the Airblade hand dryer, a sleek device that used sheets of air to scrape water off your hands in seconds. Then the bladeless fan, an elegant reimagining of cooling technology that baffled customers and thrilled design lovers. Later, Dyson introduced hair care products like the supersonic hair dryer and air wrap. These were engineered with airflow precision to minimize heat damage. By this point, Dyson wasn't just competing, he was dominating. The brand stood for performance, premium design and problem solving, and that spirit extended to the company itself. In Malmesbury, Dyson opened a cutting-edge headquarters complete with research labs, prototyping workshops, and even a campus-style layout for fostering creativity. And yes, even packaging was treated as an engineering problem. Early in the company's growth, a marketing team presented Dyson with glossy mock-ups full of flashy product claims. He rejected them outright. Instead, he insisted the packaging show the inner mechanics of the vacuum, the cyclone technology, the clear dust bin, and the engineering behind it all. His logic was simple: let the product speak for itself. That approach worked. Dyson was not just selling gadgets, he was selling trust in innovation. As he once said, people buy a product not just because it works, but because they believe in the thinking behind it. From a single prototype in a garden shed to a global brand with a cult-like following, Dyson had built something rare, a company that never followed the rules. And it didn't follow rules because the company was too busy rewriting them. Dyson today. Today, Dyson is no longer just a British success story. It's a global powerhouse. With operations in more than 80 countries and a product lineup that spans vacuums, fans, air purifiers, hair dryers, and beyond, the company has become a symbol of precision, design, and relentless innovation. At the helm of it all is Sir James Dyson, whose estimated personal fortune now exceeds £23 billion as of 2025. This places him among the wealthiest individuals in the UK and one of the richest inventors in history. But for Dyson, the real pride doesn't lie in the money. It lies in what the company builds. Dyson Ltd generated £7.1 billion in revenue in 2023, a testament to the enduring demand for its high-performance, high-priced products. Unlike many tech companies that rely on hype, Dyson continues to invest heavily in R&D. Out of its 14,000 employees worldwide, 6,000 are engineers and scientists. This is an extraordinary ratio that reflects the company's engineering-first DNA. That commitment to innovation extends to education. In 2017, Dyson launched the Dyson Institute of Engineering and Technology, a radical model for higher education. Students earn while they learn, working on real Dyson projects while studying for a degree, and all of this without paying tuition. It's part of Dyson's long-term vision, to train the next generation of problem solvers, not just employees. However, not all of Dyson's moves have been applauded. In 2019, the company announced it was relocating its global headquarters to Singapore, citing better access to Asian markets. The move sparked controversy, especially given James Dyson's outspoken support for Brexit and his previous commitment to British manufacturing. Critics saw it as a betrayal. Dyson insisted it was a strategic business decision. Today, Singapore serves as the company's official base, particularly for manufacturing and operations in Asia. Meanwhile, the heart of Dyson's research and education still beats in Malmesbury, where the company continues to expand its UK presence, proving that while its name may be stamped worldwide, its roots remain deeply British. From a dusty prototype in a garage to a tech empire with billions in revenue, Dyson today is more than a company. It's a case study in how obsession with solving problems can build an empire. And James Dyson remains, fittingly, its quiet and uncompromising architect. The future of Dyson. While Dyson is already a household name, its future is anything but settled. The company is pushing hard into AI, robotics, and sustainable technology, betting that the next generation of innovation will be driven by intelligent machines and cleaner solutions. Back in 2020, Dyson announced an ambitious plan. £2.75 billion would be invested over 5 years into new technologies. That investment continues to fuel bold exploration. Some of it is risky, and some of it revolutionary. Take the company's foray into electric vehicles. After years of development and hundreds of millions spent, Dyson pulled the plug on its EV project in 2019, citing unsustainable costs. But it wasn't a loss. The project gave Dyson deep experience in batteries, motors, and design integration, skills now being applied elsewhere. Today, the company is expanding into wearables, air purification systems, and smart home technology, including AI-powered household robots that can sense and adapt to users' needs. Yet through all the change, one thing remains constant: James Dyson's core philosophy. Design, he insists, must solve real problems, not just look sleek on a shelf. In a world filled with gimmicks, Dyson continues to bet on meaningful invention. If history is any guide, it's a bet that will pay off, again and again. Have you ever used a Dyson product? And did the innovation speak to you? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear. For now, though, we're out of here. Catch you in the next video.